Hey, John Kavakis here with another edition of My Take. Today we're going to do something a little bit fun, something I've been looking forward to for a while. We're all familiar with the 1933 Duesenberg SJ, the Ralston Arlington Torpedo Sedan. We call it the 20 grand. Famous car. They only made one of them. It was called the 20 grand because back when 1933, 20 grand was a lot of money. That was the price on the car. So it's a legendary car. A huge number of models have been made. And you know, they're fascinating models coming in most scales. We've only had a few in 1/43rd, and up until just recently, the gold standard on this model has been B&G Historical Lines 1/43rd 20 grand that's sold for $420 or so. Now, I've had one in my collection for a long time. It's one of my prized models. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the level of detail and everything. But not too long ago, GLM, who's been doing some really fantastic models at a really, really good price, introduced one at, I think the introduction price was $129. If you check completed sales on eBay, of course, you know, if you're trying to check price, you check completed sales. You don't check the listings. A lot of people list models for prices that are unrealistic. So completed sales on eBay worldwide run right around $105 or so. So, you know, whenever we see things like that as collectors, we have some questions. Well, you know, what's the difference between the models? Is it worth it? How much am I paying for packaging? You know, all sorts of things. Well, I've got them both right here. And I'm not going to put them on the turntable. I'm just going to do some really nice shots, hopefully very clear for you, and compare them side by side. And we'll let you decide whether or not the price difference is worth it. $420, $129, well, actually $105 or so if you go for prices on the secondary market. So the first thing I want to show you, here's a historic line. And of course, if you've done business with Mikhail Bashmashnikov, you know what a great guy he is. Shows up at all the shows, he hangs out with us and that sort of thing. And so he is a stickler for detail. He insists on perfection in his models. And I got to tell you something, with this model, I think they came pretty close. It's a pretty spectacular model. And of course, you can see the first difference between the two is in the base and the acrylic cover. Now, GLM's got a decent acrylic cover. It's got the typical plastic base that's been coming out of the resin models from China. But this is a walnut base on the B&G Historical Line. They've got some etching, there's some badging in there. And the overall impression on this one is it is a high-level 1/43rd model suitable for discerning collectors. That's not to disparage a GLM because GLM's been doing some really fantastic work. You've been watching the channel. You've seen the reviews that we've done. And it seems like with every new issue, they just keep getting nicer and nicer. Packaging is a bit more simpler. They concentrate more on the model. The great thing about both makers is they listen carefully to their customers. So, you know, Mikhail is there talking to people on the floor of the shows. He goes to the concourse and that sort of thing. And GLM listens carefully to the forums. They listen, they watch the videos that we put up. They listen to the comments. I will summarize the comments and send to them. And we've actually seen GLM make changes in their pre-production prototypes to accommodate some of the input they've gotten from people that have been watching the videos. So yeah, it's a pretty exciting time for 1/43rd. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to start uncovering these, and then we're going to start taking pictures of them, and I'll talk to you about them, and I'll come back to you again as soon as we're done. So here are the two models side by side. As we go through the video, the GLM will be on the left and the EMC B&G Historical Line will be on the right. And every now and then we'll throw a picture of the 1/1 in for comparison. So here's the front end of the two cars. You can see there's some proportion differences here. The models are all taken under the same light, so the bright work on the B&G is a little deeper, a little more lustrous than on the GLM. There's some differences in the lensing as well, positioning of the bumper, size of the bumper, and so on and so forth. Here they are with the 1/1 car in the middle. If you ever want to stop and take a closer look at these things, just pause the video and that'll give you a chance to study the pictures. Here's the back of the car. I had a bit of a hard time getting a good shot of the back of the 1-1 car, but you can see there are some differences in the luggage rack and how it's positioned, and the texture on the luggage rack, and some difference in lensing here as well. Here's a side-by-side comparison again with the 1-1. And one thing I've noticed about the B&G Historic Line, there seems to be a bit more metal flake in the paint finish. Now that shows up as prominent under the studio lights, but in person it's a finer, more textured look. Here's a look at the detail on the wheels and the spare tire. A little bit of detail on the venting on the engine as well. And here we see some of the detail work along the door edges, the hinges, the running boards, that sort of thing, even a little bit of interior detail. But once again, under the lights, the fleck on the B&G Historic Line shows up a bit more prominently than it does in person. Okay, so there we are. And as you can see, there are differences in the cars. They're not so noticeable that you would look at one and go, gee, that's really different than the other. It's not until you put them side by side. So there's about a $300 difference in price, maybe a little bit less than that. There are far fewer of these made than the GLM. So, first question we would have to ask ourselves would be how much for exclusivity? That's a question you'd have to answer. I can't answer that for you. But the level of detail is higher. There's a greater fidelity, greater accuracy in the details. This is a really well-made model, approaches heirloom status as far as I'm concerned. GLM's model is fantastic, and if you don't see yourself spending this amount of money for a B&G, and you're happy with the GLM, there's no reason in the world not to be happy with it. I mean, we buy because we have motivations in our collecting, and we buy to satisfy those motivations and desires. And if this car makes you happy, well, it's a really good value. If you're looking for museum quality, I think we can say the same thing about the B&G Historic Line, that it's a really good value too. It depends on what you're looking for in your collection. So if you liked the video, do me a favor, give me a like down there in the lower right-hand corner. But I'd like to hear your comments too. If you're not viewing this video on YouTube, or if you're on Facebook, or if you're in one of the forums, click in the little YouTube icon down in the lower right. That'll take you to the YouTube channel, and give me your comments. Let me know what you think about the format. Let me know what you think about this type of video. If you like it, I've got several more that I'd like to be able to bring to you. So, hey, thanks for tuning in. I'll be back again.